right? And social services gets involved with the with the family. They will want to hear from the father as well. If, for example, if you're separated, they will want to hear from the father, especially if they're taking the child away from you. The local authority has a duty to contact the father and ask the father his views and assess the father to find out, okay, you're saying mom cannot take care of a child. That's why you're removing the child from the mother's care. But have you asked about the father? It could be that the father has the capacity and the capability to look after the child. But if you don't ask and you go to court, the judge will send you back. It sends the local authority back and say to them, go and find the father. Why are you here without, you haven't spoken, and that can cause big delay, even a year. Also, the father can turn around and sue the local authority, even sue the court, and say that you adopted my child, or you took my child away from my from the mother, and you never alerted me. So sometimes we are asked to go all over the world, or we are asked to go all over and to search for the mother, so for the father, for the other party who's got parental. It's a very important thing, because they can sue us as well. So the mother will have to provide us with information. So they will ask you, where's the father? And you ring and you say, oh, father is in Navrongo. I'm going to have to find him in Navrongo, or call him in Navrongo. If I call him and he says to me, don't call me again, I don't want to know, that's fine. But I have to make that effort to call him.
Do you have email?
And you have to have email and record, and he will send me. He will send me an email. He will send me his identity and everything to say that yes, I have parental responsibility. I left this country and I went to Ghana. Especially if, for example, you had the children here and there was immigration issues and you were sent home to your country, we still have got no right to take away your child without finding the father of the child. But sometimes some of us, we don't know these things. And, they'll ask in a trivia, where's the father, and blah, blah, blah. So we don't know where the father is. If you say we don't know where the father is, the court will ask us, go and find him. We can't just say we don't know where the father has got a right to. And it's very, very important in these days. You can't do court proceedings and local authority taking a child from a family without and looking first. So that's what Uncle is trying to explain. It's very, very important that we know that. The other bit we also talked about was actually explaining the various aspects of who gets parental responsibility. Right. So we have so many categories of the fathers or of couples. The first person who gets parental responsibility automatically is the mother, right? The mother has parental responsibility automatically. And then the couple, if they are married, is both. If they are married, then they have to register. You go with them and then you register and the child on the birth certificate. Yeah, the two of you register. So that one you have automatic. But if you're not married or legally, maybe here they've done the customary, but on paper, I know that they do recognize customary marriage, but in law, if you're not Mr. and Mrs. and you're together, you still need to go with the other party to go and register. Sometimes when I remember one of my friends, he said, oh, when I took my child to go and register, they said they won't do it. I have to go and call the mother. The dad, the mother said, go and register the child.
They doubted him. That's right.
And he took the child to the registry office to register. And then he said, no, you need to go and call the mother. So he came back and then they did it together. So that's how it is. That's the second category. And then if you are boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever relationship you have and you're not married, you don't automatically have parental responsibility. You need to apply for it. And there are so many ways of applying for it. We said one is by agreement between the parents. So mom and dad will agree and then you will write it all up. There is a form, there's a template that you can write on. Because what the court doesn't want is always getting involved in family matters. Even though the court system is there, as much as possible, it wants the family to resolve their own issues. Mm-hmm. So it's important that we try in the first instance, if there's no domestic violence issues, then we try and work it out. So the first thing is for the parents to try and agree. This is where sometimes it becomes a problem, because sometimes you have parents who are separated and are very bitter against each other, angry. So you have a mother who say, no, I'm not giving you. We want my child. You want to use my child for your papers. So I'm not allowing you to, have parental. I've had it so many times when I used to work in Kafka's, where the parents come to court and then you're trying to resolve the issues. And then you have a parent who's saying, I don't want him to have parental responsibility because he's got no papers and he wants to use my child. Is his child too?
So when did you know that he didn't get papers before he got pregnant?
Yeah. And sometimes it can become such a long battle and judges get upset over that. Why are you saying, you can't have the paper? It's not in your power. If this man is not abusive, he's also got a right to be a father. Mm-hmm. So we need to take that away from our minds and say, oh, the guy hasn't got papers, he's got immigration issues, and therefore I'm not going to allow him to have for his name to come on the paper because it will help him to get a paper. Did you have papers when you were coming to this country? You didn't. Uncle, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, and I think it's this issue about unmarried fathers obtaining and the attitude. I think, yes, the criteria is that if the domestic violence, if there are other issues which
then you go
take
to
precedence,
court.
then you got to use it and you got to evidence it that this person is using this child, or this person has said, oh, once the child is born and they come contact, I will take the child away and all that. You have to evidence it. Has he sent an email? Has he threatened you? Then, but even that one is issue about the responsibility, the child, the person's, the father's responsibility is the child. So the other ones, by barring the child and the father from having seen the child, could be dealt with. But we, Marty talked initially about resolving things amicably, doing things by agreement. If it doesn't work, and the father feels that, yes, then you got to seek the legal advice, where, yes, you have to say whether the mother will give you. If the mother doesn't give you, what do? Do you want to enter the parental responsibility agreement with the mother? If not, then you may have to apply to the court to get parental responsibility order. So you have to try first. You have to evidence that you sat down with the mother. You have to evidence that you don't have any hidden agenda which the woman can use against you to say, oh, he is not responsible, he's violent, he said this, that. Then you go through the next stage. Can we go and register, because yes, I want my name. So invariably you are evidencing that you are a responsible father. You are demonstrating. Yeah.
And in the same way, sometimes I say to fathers that have had I know fathers who have had children and haven't got who have had children with people who they are not married to, right? And I say to them that if you're giving the woman money to look after the child, make sure it passes through the bank. If you haven't got a bank account, go to the post office. Try and get a receipt somehow of the money that you're providing. If you get to spend time with your child, take photographs to evidence that I've been looking after this child, I've been spending time with this child. So you can't, they can't just say you haven't been part of this child's life, because this is what happens. Sometimes the women go to court, and I'm not picking on women, but in high proportion of people that I've worked with dealing with separated parents cases, you have the women going to court and they will make all sorts of allegations. You could see the frustrated fathers. So most of them are fathers who haven't got, unfortunately, the people who become victims are the fathers who haven't got their settlement in the UK. It's not only Ghanaian people, it's not only black African people, it's like the Asians. I came across a lot of Asians as well. And, you have the woman saying, you're not going to see. You're not going. I don't agree with the name being put on the birth certificate. I don't agree with him getting parental responsibility because he's got no papers and he wants to use the child. That's not the issue here. It's about his responsibility to that child and the child's right to have or to spend time, to have a relationship with a father and a mother.
Yeah.
You see? So take your adult issues and put it aside and then focus on the child. And the woman, you stop meeting your own needs. If this man is a risk to the child, then you as a woman, you need to evidence it. That this man is a risk to our child. In the past, he hit me in front of which is there. It happens. Sometimes when the woman was pregnant, you hit her. Is there police evidence? You need to evidence that. Was it ever reported to the police? Woman, if you're suffering from domestic violence or domestic abuse from your partner, try and evidence as much as you can. So you can't just get up and say, I'm disputing, I don't want his name on the child certificate. It's my child. It's not your child. It's the two of us both. We need to learn that. So the one way that the woman can have, the man can have parental responsibility is by agreement between the parents. All of this, once it's written, then you have to take it to court for it to be signed. If you don't take it to court, then it's irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant anyways. Court will not accept it. The law of the land will not support you in any sense. So it's important to really have it, signed before it becomes effective. The next thing you can do to get PR is to marry the mother. If everything is all right, then you can marry the mother. And then the other thing also that we talked about last week was that was it the 1st of December or 20? Was it 3rd or?
Yeah, 1st of December 2003. After if it was before that, you have to go to court after that.
Yeah.
Once your name is on it,
So if the child was born before the 1st of December 2003, then you have to go to court or to go and re-register the child and get your name on the birth certificate. But if it's after that as well, and
if not married,
that's where you have to marry or go through that process that we are trying to explain. Yeah. And then what is, Uncle, what's the next category?
The next category can also be you can obtain before 2000
it's written, no?
Yeah, residence order, which is now a child arrangement order. It used to be residence order. So children who were born before 2014, if you didn't have it, you could also do residence order. But now
you can apply for child arrangement order.
Yeah, now it's child arrangement order.
Yeah. So I don't know your friend of Section 8 orders. I know it's a bit technical for you to understand, but so those Section 8 orders, Nadia, and then it's been cancelled. We don't have the Section 8 orders, but it's been placed by the child arrangement order. The child arrangement order is an order that specified where the child should live. And once you get that child arrangement order, automatically you have the parental responsibility. Yeah. So if, for example, you split with your partner, and there's problem about where the child is living, or you think you're the best parent and there's argument about who or what should happen, then your application will be a child arrangement order whereby you go to the court and pick up the form. It's called Form 100. You go and pick up the form and then you come and fill it. Sometimes I say it's called DIY application. These days it's very difficult to get a solicitor. You can't get legal aid. Solicitor is expensive.
You got to pay.
You pay for it. If you need help, we can help you. I can help you to make an application anyway, because it's something I've done for.
Provided you are honest with what is happening.
You have to be honest. And if you're not honest, then I can't help you. Then we can because we can do DIY, and also you can represent yourself in court.
Yes.
It's called litigant in person. So litigant. Yeah, it's called lip. You're a lip. It means litigant. In fact, when you're litigant in person, the judges really do help you a lot because they know that you don't know the law and you're there as a lay person, so they help you. But if you have a solicitor, then the solicitor will be speaking for you, and sometimes you can't get your views across. But a lip really gets away with the law because you can say anything in court, and the judge will say, of course, you don't know what you're saying.
It comes from the heart.
He knows it comes from So it's rather interesting. I really love working in court. Honestly, I love it so much. It's really interesting. Now you get into people's business. And but you see that you're doing something good, and you just want to help everybody. We have so many people who don't know, and when they come to court, when you get to court, you need to comport yourself. We're not saying go to court. Court is the least, the last resort. If you have to go to court, you need to learn to comport yourself. You comport your temper, because if you go there and you go and demonstrate your temper and you become very difficult and unreasonable, you've lost already because you're demonstrating your behavior. So it's important to just keep quiet and just go with the flow of what is happening, be reasonable and all of that over there. It's quite interesting. We also talked about who can apply for parental responsibility.
I think the last one, which I want to add before we move to this one. On the death of the child's mother, the birth mother, the father automatically, but it's also
But even sometimes, if he's not on the certificate.
You got to apply.
He's got to apply for it. Yeah.
That is the quickest one of them.
So if he never applied, then the
he will have to go and apply now. Okay. Because he would then, obviously, on the death of the child's mother, and it comes to social services knowledge that this child has lost the parents, we will have to look into the family to see who can take care, because it could be that the father is not in a position to take care of the child. So we will talk about that in a minute, where a grandparent can take over the care of the child. And when the grandparent take over the care of the child, we give her something called special guardianship. She gets a special guardianship order, and that special guardianship order, she gets parental responsibility through that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that she'll be able to make daily decisions for the child. If she doesn't have that order, she goes to school, take the child to school. The child has to go on a trip. She has nobody to ask. She can't make that decision. Child has to go to doctor. She can't make the day-to-day decisions to look after a child. So it's important for us to give that guardian the special guardianship order, and that comes with allowance from the government and all of that. So the father has to be assessed. Of course, we will have to look for the father and say, does he want to exercise his parental rights? If so, he needs to make the application. If so, he needs to make the application first, so that we can have him. He can, have him legally responsible for that, and then from then on, we just. I remember I had one case in. I don't want to say where, but this case, there were 3 children, and the mother died. She passed because she took drugs and alcohol. So basically, she did that for a long time, and then it killed her, sadly. And then when she died, immediately then we gave. Not me, with the local authority, because I was a guardian for the children at the time. So the local authority then gave the children to the mother's friend. So when they gave the children to the mother's friend to look after in the immediate, because she died in her house and the children were there, so they needed somebody immediately. So they took the children and gave to a friend. Now the father was in prison, and he's not named on the thing. But then he got a lawyer, but he also he's drugged up a lot, and he's in and out of prison. His life is a mess. Sadly, his life is a mess, and he hasn't sorted his life out. So then the local authority assessed this friend, and then they give the child. Then you know what the trick? As usual, the fight that local authority have with the guardians, they don't want to pay the money, and therefore they were saying we didn't place the child with a friend, and that became a long issue. So we had to fight for the children. But a friend can also apply, because that family friend who takes over, they can't make decisions for the child's day-to-day care.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that friend,
person of PR can make.
So she needs the parental responsibility. She needs to be delegated to be able to take care of.
You know, for the child, whatever it is, to grant it to the friends, do they have to? Does the friend have to have known the family for a certain period of time, or just?
You know, in US, a neighbor took 6 children. I was watching it last time. She went to the hospital, and then she didn't know this woman for. They were just neighbors. And then when she went to the hospital, they told her she had cancer. And she's a single mom. So she said she had cancer. And she asked the neighbor to look after the children. She's going to the hospital. She came back, and within a month or 2, she passed. And the neighbors took on the care of the children. So they didn't have to know her for long, but the children were willing to stay with them. They were very nice. So they were doing this thing for them and giving them gifts and things, on the news. I think Fox News or something was acknowledging what they'd done. Somebody had recommended them. So to answer your question, it's not always like that, because sometimes we do, even if the local authority comes in contact with the family and they're looking for somebody to get a special guardianship, we will ask you, do you have people that you can recommend? You can say. So for example, if somebody's child in a church is being taken away, they can come and approach you and say to Auntie, they're taking my children, but I've seen you in this church, and I know, at least being in the church, I know you have the same understanding, and you will look after my child better than a stranger. I'd rather you have my child than a stranger. The local authority will assess this person. Once they assess this person and the lifestyle, everything is positive, they can place the children with the person. So I always say to people that if God forbid that your children come in contact and they are taken, then all hope is not lost. Look for somebody, a family, a friend. You can recommend 10 people, it doesn't matter.
You can go through.
We have to do the suffering by going through their lifestyle, assessing them, and then ticking the boxes one by one. So all you have to do is come up with the names, and not necessarily. We don't necessarily have to say that you don't necessarily have to have known them for that long, because our assessments will tell us anyways. So that's very, very important. So grandparents can have, whoever takes care of the child has to be has to have has to be given special guardianship. Okay. Uncle, do you want to add anything else before we move on?
Basically, I think it's more of in answering to what Trish asks, the motivation of the person is important. So sometimes we go in there and we have a kind of standard questions, but at the same time you look at this. If you go in and say, after all, I know I'm going to get money from them, I'm going to then you have a different agenda. Because I didn't have children, I think that I can take them as my children, or that it might be, but your children. So what about if they start giving you a problem? Are you going to say, you're not my child? You're going to. So sometimes people will say certain things in terms of the detailed assessment or the motives, but whatever you say, you got to be honest. It should be from your heart, because taking anybody's child,
you have to really think about it as well. If you're taking somebody's child, because you remember, once you get that you get that responsibility, it's for 18 years. They have to be till 18 years
by law.
You shouldn't. You obviously you can give them up, but you shouldn't. You are not expected to give them up.
You got to think of the damage.
You got to think about the damage you're going to cause to this child. So it's important that before you take it on, you do this. In last, I think a month ago, I had a baby. Yeah, this baby was taken away from the parents. Why did they take the baby away? Because when he was born, he was a big baby, right? And then, unfortunately, they didn't see, but he had 2 broken ribs.
Oh.
So when the parents took him home, he wasn't sleeping on his left side properly. So each time they put the baby down, he would scream and cry. So the parents took him to the hospital. When they took him there, they couldn't explain what was happening to the baby, and because they couldn't give health professionals the satisfactory explanation, they had to call social services. So then immediately we took the baby from them. It was a sad situation, but in social services stance, you have to protect before you assess.
Okay.
So we took the children to protect. We took the baby to protect it first, because we don't know where the danger is coming from. So once you take the baby, then quickly you try and assess everybody around to find out who caused this harm. Was it accidental or it was non-accidental? Then you get experts in, and the experts will then look at, will assess the evidence available. And once they do that, then they'll make a decision. So in this case, they assess the family. I worked with the family for a while, and I realized they were very nice family couple, and they didn't know what happened. They couldn't give explanation till today. So about 3 weeks ago, I sent the baby back home. They were very happy. We celebrated because expert assessment came back, and they said it was 50-50. But we didn't have enough evidence to remove the child.
And what Auntie just said, that's why in the past we talk about what you call protective factor. When we're dealing with child abuse, and initially we talk about protective factor, you talk about things as couple. Sometimes when it comes to these issues, if you have nothing to hide, don't blame each other, work together.
Raise aware. You have to just come together and tell the truth. And they did work together. They were open. We followed every instructions that we gave them. Everything. We promoted contact. We did it frequently. They formed a bond with the baby because it was only a 2-week-old baby. Yeah, there were difficulties, but I had to explain to them that, I'm really sorry you're going through this, but this is what we have to do to protect the child. So unfortunately, there are parents out there who do harm their their children, and we can't forget that. So we protect, then we assess. So we assume that everybody around the child is guilty until proven innocent. That's how we work. So eventually, we assess the family, and it could be that they said it's possible that it was during birth, because it was a long delivery for this mother as well. She said she was in labor for about 28 to 30 hours.
Look at this. So it could have been
the pool and everything.
Because sometimes, and that's why some of these are not detected. And as Auntie said, sometimes you got to give them benefit of the doubt, but at the same time you work with them, and it's quite a stressful situation when we are dealing with this thing. Imagine a newborn baby. And then
the parents were asking, so did we do wrong by taking our child to the hospital in the first place? No. And I said to them, no, because and that's a protective factor. You try to protect your child, but unfortunately, I haven't had the satisfactory explanation that I need to make me feel that this child is in safe hands. So therefore, I need to take A, B, C, D decisions. So that's what happens. So to come back to that, anybody can take not necessarily parental, you can apply for it through special guardianship. The other question that's coming up is can parental responsibility be transferred?
Right. In terms of transferred, yes. It's
not fully transferred. It says, can it be transferred?
Yeah, it says a person with parental responsibility cannot transfer their responsibility to another person.
Exactly.
Parental responsibility can be shared, but not completely transferred. So, for instance, a mother who is given to an auntie, a grandparent, and all that, you are sharing. The only time it takes away from you is when the child is adopted. So, even in care order, when you've taken to court, and order until the child is 18, you still hold the parental responsibility as a parent, but there are legalities. That's why sometimes the practical stuff we talked about earlier, if wherever the child is, then that person will do that's it. So yes, it cannot be transferred, but it could.
You can delegate some of the responsibility to other people. Like when we said about the stepfather, the stepfather can apply if you're, for example, you're not in the country and your partner, your ex-partner has got another partner, and the in agreement, you can just transfer some of you can transfer your PR to the person, but that doesn't mean that you haven't got parental responsibility. You do. You're sharing. You're sharing so that him being here where your child is being cared for, he can support the care of your child.
You know, if you know how you said that the stepfather can, but let's say if the mother and the stepfather were to separate, so does it mean that the stepfather will now lose his rights to the child as well?
He's not the biological father anyways. So he can't take that take that with him, or because obviously he's not the biological father. The biological father he's legally the person. That one was delegated to him. So if he's left, then he doesn't take that with him. He hasn't got the right to come back and say that he wants to make decisions on the child's life again. So should we take a break and come back to part 2? I think today we're even clearer on parental responsibilities. I'm hoping that people who are listening, if you have any questions, come back to us. I know people came to us a lot as after we finished to talk about these issues. There are so many people who have such issues out there, you won't believe it. So it's important that we take our time to thrash it out. If you have any issues or questions, please post them on Facebook now or YouTube. We are on YouTube and we are on Facebook now, streaming as we speak. So
if you are doubting some relationship, we can also advise.
So you can just come to us now. As we go, we take a break. Don't go away. Just you also take a few minutes. Stay tuned and take a few minutes break as well, and we will be back shortly. Thank you. back watching COP UK Radio, Community Welfare Matters. Our topic for today, as we've been discussing, is parental responsibility. Okay, parental responsibility, and we are on part 2 at the moment. We've said a lot of things, and I hope that you were with us from the beginning. We can't go back, but I know we've said a lot. If you can't catch us now, you can always visit the website and Facebook and YouTube and catch up with us. Uncle, if we come back again to where we were in terms of who does what, if we a father wants parental responsibility and the mother disagrees with it, what do we do? Or what is he supposed to do?
All right.
Because I've had so many questions about that. Sometimes we don't realize, but in our community, I think people are going through a lot, and parents or mothers use the children as weapons against the fathers. So they use just because they separated and they're upset with the fathers. Especially, of course, if there are risks, I will always not forget that. If there are risks, then that will be considered. But if there are no risks, then it's important that the father has parental responsibility, or what we call PR. So if you hear me saying PR, it means parental responsibility. So in a case where the mother is opposing, she's really angry, and you know the fury of a woman. She will make allegations, she will say anything, and you, the father, become very helpless. What do you do in this scenario?
All right. The mother should be given a chance to put forward her reasons for refusing to agree to any father's having parental responsibility, and why she thinks the court. So when we're talking about this scenario, as we talked initially, you got to sit down to be able to have a discussion with the mother, convince her why you are responsible for that. As we talked about earlier, the things you've been doing, sending money, having contact, and all of a sudden, no, you can't have it. Yes?
Yeah, because I know somebody who's been, he had a child with a person, another woman, a woman, of course. And then when, the man only has contact according to the woman's mood. And in Ghana, for the Ghanaian man here, as I've seen it, they said, oh, it's okay. If she doesn't want to allow me, I don't want a fight. So then she will leave it. He will leave it. He doesn't fight this woman, or he doesn't. And I'll say to him, yes, listen, go to court, or because I know that this woman will not allow it. She will not sit down and discuss this amicably. So the best thing to do is to take this one in particular. You just have to take it to court, because mediation will not work. In fact, mediation will cause more problem. And what the government doesn't want to do is to cause problems between families. So as much as he wants you to resolve it, at the same time, if it's going to be a risk to the child or to the mother, then the best place will be to the court.
Yeah.
And this woman allows the child to see the father, or the father to see the child according to how she feels. So if she's angry with the father, then the father is not allowed to see the child. How does that work?
So it becomes
whose interests are we? Who are we failing here?
Yeah, failing the child. Yeah. So in this case, it is then left with the court to make a decision as to whether or not it will make parental responsibility order. So now we are talking about order. Yeah. And this order, as we talk about this, you have to get it if you don't have it. So now the court might say things like the court may decide that giving the father parental responsibility could potentially allow him to misuse his parental responsibility in future.
Yeah, Uncle, hold on that. On that point you just raised, that is a situation where the father is seen as a danger,
risk.
Risk to the child.
I'm talking about the scenarios where they might not be given. So yes, you remember you talked about initially that you got to evidence that you are a responsible father.
Yeah.
But these are some of the things who could be used to rule you out. And the things I'm talking about, I'm talking legally because they are case laws. They are things which has happened. And this one scenario, So the mother was able to evidence in court that by interfering the mother's care of the child, thereby causing her distress and undermining her authority to care for a child who had multiple disability and special needs. So this was a case where the father was using contact and the child had disability. Whenever the child came, for instance, the child was always wet or the child was always distressed in a certain way. And the question they will ask is it because father is doing something of this child? And that's why sometimes some of these things they will have what they call contact supervisors. And I think this particular case, the contact supervisors were advising father to do certain things, not to do certain things, and he wasn't listening. So it was making the child distressed. So the mother could use that to go back to court to say, no, this contact, even apart from the. So yes, you are using contact to stop parental responsibility because they have separated. Yeah, but still, you might be sure that the court might even ask you still to pay for your money you are supposed to pay.
Yeah. So sometimes the argument that comes is that, and this was I was going to discuss that in my next question I'm going to ask. The argument is that the father will say, but I'm paying so much money. Why can't I see my child? And vice versa. But the point is that if you as a father know what you're doing, know how you when you see your child, you don't protect the child. The courts can minimize. They can limit your time you spend with your child. You
can even have supervised contact.
You will have supervised contact. What the aim is for you to have contact or spend time. In court, they say spend time. So for you to spend time with your child without anybody there, a third eye there, that is natural and normal for any father. So that's the aim. So you prepare towards that. However, if they know that you as a father and you have issues, or you come and nobody knows how your parenting style is, they will put a supervisor in first. So you as a father, you're supposed to, and I've had Ghanaian parents come to me. First, I was deciding on one case where the mother has stopped the father from seeing the children, 3 children. I remember they fought at a party. These 2 parents fought at a party. So they fought in front of the children. That in itself is abusive to your children. You had a fight, punching, emotional abuse to your children.
You want to go and see them.
But in the end, the fault was it was pushed on the father. As always. So men, you have to be very careful. If you're spending time with your child, you're going to court asking for the judge to give you parental responsibility or give you an order for you, especially a child arrangement order, for you to spend time with your child because you've separated. When the child comes to you, make sure if the child is a baby, the pampers have been changed, you fed the child, the supervisor is there, they're watching you, and they're supposed to do a report for court or do a report for anybody, social services. So they're observing how you're interacting with your child. So you can't just come in and not know what to do. You need to respond to your child. You need to be seen to be listening to your child and all of that. So I think that sometimes parents need to be educated on how to deal with us or how to deal with social services in the first instance. Like today, my colleague, because we are trying to do a project, my colleague sent me an email, a message on WhatsApp. Nigerians have gone to the High Commission. And this is rare. I'm not telling a story. I think it was last week. It was on the news. So I've got the WhatsApp here. I'll show you later. But they've gone to the High Commission and they are saying to the High Commissioner that Nigerian children are being taken away from their families because of physical chastisement. So they want something to be done about it because in Nigeria, they are supposed to physically chastise their children.
Go back, take them back to your country then.
So the question is now.
You are in Rome, you do what the Romans do.
Exactly.
And these are we cannot beat our children.
Exactly.
But you beat your children, you have responsibility. We are in England. And it's about what kind of beating?
By law.
Somebody in this borough was using pepper because the child has long hair and going. And where they come from, they can use pepper. So what do you do? The child comes in and he takes the scissors and the long, nice hair, natural hair, cut the child so that you can't go out. You are not being responsible. There are ways of doing it. These teenagers are pushers. But you can't beat them. You can't cut their hair because they are doing things. So as parents, come on. Yes, our children pushers. But when we are in England, so we set one law for Nigerians, one for Ghanaians, one for the British.
So that's what the response they got. And that because they said the high number of
would
children, a high proportion of children are being taken into care. Nigerian children are being taken into care now, being received in care because of physical chastisement.
They should advise their colleagues.
They said they're going to. They said they should advise them from Nigeria. If you want to come and settle in the UK, then you have to abide by the laws of the land. And also, the High Commissioner was saying as well that they need to educate people, and he's going to act on that because it's zero tolerance now. So there's a charity here. So the woman is called she is helping the Nigerian women. Nigerian Nigerian families to try and deal with the situation. And she's saying that yes, they need to abide by the laws of the land, but they need to be educated. In this day and age, yes, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this program, to educate everybody that you need to abide by the laws of the land.
Because people should think that you do things. So even the mother, because children are taken away because people want to assess their own rights. And what about the rights of the children? Yes, we have children who are challenging. Nobody dismisses that. Sometimes you be a child of autism, you have not even taken the child to be assessed so that you know how to manage it and get the support. So the child comes in there and run around church, run around in college, and you get assessed as a parent. Then you take a stick or take a and whack.
And
so
the child.
There are things we got to observe as parents because listen. So coming back to this issue about PR, yes, that's one responsibility. If the mother can demonstrate that your responsibility or the way you see the child in contact is impacting the child negatively, the child is regressing, the mother can make an application
to stop the contact.
Also, there's also the father who has injured the child during contact, and another child is displaying cruel
that is lack of supervision.
And you couldn't give responsibility. The child comes in there, you are playing, and they are always, it's not like the normal bumps. The child is doing some risky stuff and you're climbing things, and you just take you on your phone, and by the time the child's neck is on the there and the child is in the hospital, the mother is saying, what happened? Accidents do happen, but you got to give responsibility. What happened?
So you fathers, you have to be more responsible. For taking care of your children as well. But what I'm saying is that it's important that we as fathers, we take up the mantle. Don't just leave it just because mother is preventing you. You need to be there for your children as well. So and don't be afraid that maybe you haven't got the settlement. The woman has got no right to stop you from seeing your child because you haven't got settlement. They've got no right to do that. And is there anything else you want
also
to add?
Now men seeing things on the phone, checking some pornographic photographs, your child comes in there and goes to mom and say, oh gosh, mom, when I was playing the iPad I saw some stuff, and say somebody did that. Or recently a child somewhere has taken an iPad and has said something to Siri. Siri, do something. And because father was using Siri, Siri
didn't hear it properly. He went and
downloaded what the father has been doing. And this child was watching Siri, he was saying stuff. Then the child went back to mom. Controversy started again. Hey mom, today when I was there, I took that iPad and the things I saw. What happened? That I can't say it on air, but it was stuff. So mom also had an agenda and say, you are not going there again.
Exactly, because already mom is looking for an excuse.
So man, if you are going to give your iPad and you have done nasty stuff, I'm not encouraging that. All I'm saying is that be careful, look after yourself. Don't do things which you wouldn't like your child to do.
Or see, because if you have I know there's so many, sometimes secretly people have got pornography on their phone and they watch, and all of these things are happening. So if by accident your child opens, because sometimes the children are allowed to go home to spend time. For example, if there's no risk and you've gotten to the stage where the contact is in the home, because that's the aim. Initially, you have your contact at a contact center. You will be spending time with your child at a contact center. And then after that, gradually, when they see that there are no problems, you can take your child home to go and spend time with your child. You can take your child to the community to spend time and enjoy the day. If during this period you take your child home and then you allow the child to see things that they shouldn't see, then you have a problem, because your child, you cannot say to your child, don't tell. a child that you tell don't tell, they will tell. They will give you up.
Yeah.
Children will give you. My mom said I shouldn't tell,
Yeah.
or my dad said I shouldn't tell. My dad said if I tell, that's what they will tell you. Imagine your dad. My dad is in there. He said I should tell you he's not here. That's the kind of thing.
That's how I used to do when I was younger.
We find that all the time. Sometimes the parents will coach the children,
Yeah,
but
my mom
as a
says-
professional,
my
when
mom
you
says
assess
it's
the
not
child,
Yeah, my mom says she's not.
Mama says she's not here.
Yeah, tell mom that I'm here. For you, not for her. So if you want, say to mom, I'm here for you. If mom want me not to take you away, she come here.
Exactly,
So
because
you
sometimes,
naughty child.
and the other thing is also that you shouldn't say inappropriate things to the earshot of your children. That's another thing. I had another case. I was in Redbridge at the time. Hey, gosh. I was in it doesn't matter. I was in a local authority at the time. And then I had this case where it's a Ghanaian woman, and she did this in them. They separated. But this time, this man, each time he met the woman in the community, you know, some men can insult women. This man will insult the woman from head to toe. So in the area, she will follow. And deliberately, she will time. So they did an attempt from the road. So he will time until he sees this woman coming. You know, if it's the afternoon, that this woman will go and collect the child from school. He will harass this woman. And the woman can make an application for an injunction against you.
Yeah.
She can
So
make
they
an
say
application.
don't go about 100 meters. So if it's in backing, you are not even supposed to be backing. The woman sees you there, they can apply and you'll be arrested.
She can apply, even
So
though you have parental
You are
responsibility.
using that to even
Yeah.
debar your parental responsibility.
Exactly. Sometimes you may have a parental responsibility, but
Or your
there's
actions.
a injunction against you.
Yeah. Then that makes it
That makes
impossible
it difficult.
Yeah.
Or you can still see your child, but then family members have to arrange. Because court wants to promote the relationship and it's not about the child. So they will allow you to see your child, but it has to be that maybe you have a sister who will take the child who go to the house and collect the child and bring the child to you or something. So you don't come in contact with the woman. So it becomes...
Is there in the thing that you said before, is it basically a restraining order?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's an injunction. There are different types of injunctions against you. There's a non-molestation order. There is harassment. There's so many things that you can apply for. It depends on what the situation is. Is the occupation order and all of that. And we're not coming to that. That's not what we're discussing today. But if we have to discuss that, we can discuss that later on as well. But the woman, the bottom line is, if you harass the woman, she can take an injunction against you. And it makes it difficult for you to exercise your parental rights. It's as simple as that. So fathers, be careful. As much as you want to see your child, it's important also for you to be responsible adults and put your arguments aside or your difficulties aside and focus on your child.
Another interesting thing about parental responsibility was sometimes people want to use it when they are in prison.
Yes.
There was this person, there's a case law where the person had done some serious robbery, proper serious robbery, and has been put in for long term. And while he was in prison, he wanted the children to go to prison to see him. Yeah. So the mother is saying, yeah, you went there. If you were thinking of your children, you'd not be doing that robbery and serving long prison term. So that could be used to say, look, yeah, you have the PR, but I'm not bringing the children to prison to see you. So you will not be exercising. You could not be having contact while you're in prison.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes they do all that, and then you have to take the child to prison and all of that. But mostly, you know, if you're there, you're there, and that's it. So they're coming down again. Then
I think there's some case law which I want to bring a controversial one. There's also a case law controversial one where two lesbian couple.
Oh yeah, they talk
used
about.
they used the brother's sperm, artificial insemination. Then they had it. Then after the birth of the child, this was so controversial that he became a brother, he became a father, uncle, parental responsibility. So the argument was that it's inconsistent to grant this brother or father or uncle, or because sometimes people will say, oh, he's intelligent, he's a family member, but he's intelligent, he's nice looking boy, we are in lesbian relationship, we want to do it. So they will go and do it. Now they want to register the source, because there have been also a case somewhere in America where people were lied to. They said, oh, there were these people who were from some cream people, and they were somebody who was a mad person, somebody who was the worst scenario. So they've taken the sperms and they were using it. So in this particular case, in terms of PR, yes, you might be in lesbian relationship, and if you want to use that, you cannot go in somebody close, because the law will say.
So are you saying that the father came to now fight for the baby?
Yeah, because sometimes you see people will do controversies like the person might not make disclosure. That's why now they want to know where it's coming from. So you registered it. So if you are somebody close and along the line the person is going to, and you are saying, that could also be challenged. No, because sometimes we've had children. Recently there was a case where a young person who I think was brought to lesbian relationship and is grown up, and she's saying it's okay for us. When you were doing it, you don't want to disclose. Now I've grown up and I realize that I don't have any characteristics of both your parents, and I'm asking for my father, and they are being nasty to her. And she was advocating that this. I'm not too sure about this.
There was a woman who was advocating that, and she was giving a speech. Yeah.
So,
I remember another case that I had. It wasn't same sex couple, but this was a woman who is millionaire, and the man too was very rich. And he said that he used to advise the government for arms, and he's in this he's in army and all of that. So I had this high profile couple come to me. They're not a couple. The woman said that she knew him when he was young. And because she was very rich, and because she had stayed for so long and hadn't had a baby, she approached this guy and then said, asked him if he could donate. So they've done all they have to do, and then they even I think they get married or something in the US or something like that. And then the woman had twins. When she had the twins, then we had the battle of fighting for these children.
Because he wanted to have PR.
He wanted to have PR. The woman said
no. No, it's an agreement.
Because it was an agreement.
Did he pay him?
She didn't pay him.
Yeah,
she didn't pay him.
But those are the complications.
Yeah.
So, advise young men there, if you are, somebody says, donate your sperm, and you want to do it, and because you are intelligent, because you are there, and maybe in future you will go to relationship and you are not able to have an issue, and you want to go about to have these children, think about it. Because we are in a world where a lot of things are happening that sometimes is unthinkable, because situations changes. There have been people, I know of somebody who relationship broke over back in Ghana, and had a very frustrated relationship with the first wife. First wife had a child. Then the next relationship, the children were born. The children had accident. The children died. Then the one he wasn't prepared to look after came to UK. Then all of a sudden, this is my cream child. I want to now. So men, take your responsibility from day one. Don't wait till the tragedy happens. Then you now want to. I mean, come on. Let's be responsible. This
couple, they fought over the child for so long. When you arrange contact, they will fight. You have the man who's very petty, likes fighting, and then you have the woman and they were picking on because they are all both affluent and they have money. So they were showing their powers. It made my work very, very difficult.
They are not child focused.
They're not child focused. They were just fighting in front of the children.
Sometimes you want to recommend to the children to be taken away from both of them.
Yeah, they were arguing.
They will fight you too.
Yeah, they were arguing constantly and fighting, even at the park. And it was so difficult because the woman is trying to look for every little thing that this man would do so that to discount him. And this man too obliged, because him too, he won't keep quiet. every little thing he will respond and fight and argue about it, and it was very like they were behaving like children. Constant fighting over the twins. He moved from Canada to come here to come and fight it and all of that. It was very, very difficult. So it's very, very important that we are careful. And this brings us to the point where this brings us to a point where we talk about the logistics of how caring works. Yeah. Somebody is asking us if sperm donation is godly. Yeah. I think that one will be a different topic.
A very different topic. Yeah. I think if you want to go to biblical thing,
if you want to go to biblical,
because now you can also ask yourself what kind of medical interventions are. Yeah. Is a transplant biblical? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. If you bring that up, you have so many questions.
Yeah. So those are ethical questions, which people recently. I don't want us to. Let's focus. We can do maybe it's a topic another time. Yeah. You can do another time because now this I have views about that one because recently there have been donation where a lot of people who did not sign out not to donate consent donation. Those people they will if touch wood anything happens you don't have a choice. So these are things. We are in an era now we cannot discount. We got to read things. You got to talk about them. Yeah. And
because sometimes it's even scary. I always say that and I worry that if you don't take care, if you go and donate something, your daughter somewhere will go and find your son somewhere and get married to them because people don't disclose and all of it. So the most important thing is that if you're going to get married, you need to have a DNA of some kind of test for all of these things before you get married, because the world out there now, the dynamics are changing so much that we have to be very, very careful. There's a lost son somewhere and a lost this somewhere. You've had a child you didn't know about and all of those things. So the question that the person is asking is a good question. Yeah. It's very relevant.
But if
it's contentious, but it's going
to go beyond PR.
Yeah. So it's not for this
platform. So I think we put it on our list.
And then we'll come back and discuss it. But bringing us back to our topic again, one of the things I wanted to talk about was when you talk about shared, if they say somebody has a shared responsibility, what does that mean? Because when they say shared responsibility, sometimes I know that the court also frowns upon that a lot because a shared responsibility, really shared. The child is living with one parent, right? Who does full care of the child, and you see the child. It's more of equal you have equal responsibility, not necessarily shared. Because in certain cases where I've come across, where the parents, when you have the parents who are educated, and they say shared responsibility, they start fighting. I have 50-50. I have 50%. He has 50%. She has 50%.
But technically, it doesn't.
Technically, it doesn't work like that.
Because if the child lives with mother, go to school Monday to Friday, sees you weekend or sees you mostly in school term, it's not shared. Come on. Yeah. But I think the term is used for convenience.
Exactly.
Because going back to this shared responsibility, I've had situation in some outside London borough where there was this issue about the father will pick the children on Wednesday. And it's disruptive. It's so disruptive.
I had that. That's what I'm bringing.
Because when you're having this one, and they were the people where the father was earning, and the father would not even work because he stopped paying things. Yeah, because then they shared, and he wanted to become a full-time. You couldn't match the mom. You were doing your job, and because they have been bitter relationship and it's over, then this shared became Wednesday, and the children become disruptive because you go Monday to Wednesday, then dad will go and pick them from school, and Thursday, Friday, and when they go to mom, that's where dad talks about this. Oh, you haven't done this. They are eating this, and they didn't come here.
It becomes very, very disruptive. Yeah.
So sometimes when they're talking about child focus, when they're talking about it's this PR are there, and the common sense is that you are not sharing the 50-50 in the sense that the common sense area is where
that way.
That's why when we listen about the practical stuff, if the child is in the school, why do you want to do 50 during the week when it's going to be disruptive? And maybe where you live, sometimes the traffic alone to get the children. and their sleeping pattern.
Exactly.
You can do it more if you want to share proper. Wait for half term.
Half term. Wait
Take
for
them
half
for the
term.
2
Where
weeks.
if it's 2 weeks,
Yeah.
2 weeks, you do 1 week.
Or
She does
weekend.
1 week.
Yeah.
Or weekend.
That one makes sense.
Yeah, that
So,
makes sense.
in practical terms, because when we are assessing and people are unreasonable, we take all this into consideration.
Yeah,
Because it's not because you have 50-50, you're going to do it in focus on the children. Because somebody lives in a place where the traffic alone to take the children in the morning is horrific, and you wake them up and the children are sleeping. So the school make a report that when they go to that, they sleep. They come to classroom sleeping, or they are lethargic, they don't do their homework. And not because you don't want to do it, but because you are trying to, what's the word, show that you are. No, it doesn't.
It becomes a match between the parents.
Yeah, and you are not child focused.
Between the parents. And
so in terms of parental
for me,
responsibility,
I think that shared care does not promote
50-50.
the interest of the child. It shouldn't be 50-50. The
reasonable arrangement.
There has to be a reasonable arrangement between the parents for the sake and the interest of the children. As opposed to
what I've done in the past is we sit down and list the things you do.
Yeah.
What the child routine, the age of the child, and all that. If there's a child who can take baths or something and leave early, that's okay. But when you have young children who even sometimes changing their nappies, come on, let's be realistic. Not that
exactly,
So those are the things. When we are dealing with men, I support men wholly, but when it comes to practical arrangement, I would say, my brother, come on, be realistic.
Be realistic, and you get that a lot from, I don't want to mention, but, So, coming back again, prohibited steps order. When can a father or a parent apply for a prohibited steps order? What is a prohibited steps order?
I think when we talk initially about the things which a parent think that is obstructing her or him in the care of the child. So a parent thinking that, yes, when my child comes here, if the example you gave, for instance, it could come as restraint. But at the same time, if the child was living with the mom, then they will rather give him restraining order rather than prohibited steps. Isn't it? Because what you are going to do is that the child needs to live at a place where he or she will be able to perform the normal stuff. But the opponent who is being prevented, or the one with parental responsibility who is being prevented, there should be reasons, there should be instances, there should be concerns.
So then the prohibited steps order is the order that prevents the one parent from making certain decisions that the other party doesn't agree with. So, for example, if a child wants to go on a trip and mom, and this is a situation where both parents have got parental responsibility, and mom is saying, dad is saying, no, I don't agree with Kwesi going to Paris. And then you insist that she has to go or he has to go, you can then seek a prohibited steps order. So the judge will make the order and specify, after deliberating and in looking at all the situation, and see, you have to be able to evidence why you don't allow that, you don't want that to happen. Because obviously going to France is to promote the child's education. And if you're not agreeing with that, then you should give a tangible reason why not. And then, then the prohibited steps order will come in. If you want to take your child to Ghana, for example, and dad doesn't agree, you can't just take your child to Ghana because you want to take the child to Ghana. No. Dad has a say.
Yeah.
But these days, because I will always say Ghanaian man, because that's where I come from. And the Ghanaian man will not fight, or will not necessarily fight, but will not stand firm.
Yeah.
And say, no, I don't agree with it. This is my child. Yeah. I don't think the trip that you're taking this child is appropriate. I don't think you should take my child.
Yeah. It's interesting.
He can, intervene by seeking a prohibited steps order, and the judge will specify that the child should not be taken with out of the country without the consent from the court.
And recently, there was a case where a friend was taking the son to a to a senior brother's wedding in Ghana. And something similar happened where the mother refused. Yet this person pays he's got PR, and it's about fighting we are talking about. He left it too late because some of this you got to start early. No, but sometimes financial stuff, he wasn't sure whether he's going to go, where to take him. But the mother put the proper footing to say, you're not taking it. All that. And he didn't allow my friend to take this child. But it's about these things, no? Where it's
so
a brother's
which means
wedding.
that the mother obviously knows her rights.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
the parents don't know their rights, and especially the men, they are tossed back and forth.
Yeah. But I mean, my friend, I feel that if he has started very well and put very powerful argument, because we are talking about a child he spends time with dad, a child who comes in and express, but there's this kind of dynamics. So she was more or less looking at it, talking about certain things.
Yeah, it happens a lot. So when the child is with the mother and they are separated, and that child, sometimes child wants to go to Holland, and once there's some places in Holland that you can take children. So they want to go to Holland or Disney World or something and take the child with them. But this mother who's overprotective will say, no, you can't.
Because, Holland
I've seen fathers who have gone to court and said, no, I want to spend time with my child too. I want to go. I need that order. I need to be allowed to take my child to this place. She's not going for over 28 days. He's going for 1 week. So they should be allowed to take their child or children out.
Yeah. But I think sometimes the advice here is, if you could anticipate this, you start early. Because sometimes some of these things, by going through that, and it's common sense, and people don't want to push it. No,
people don't want to push it.
So they realize that you can't get a hearing, and the day is there. It's Easter break. I started it 3 weeks before Easter, and now he says, "No, allow me." So.
It's not about all of that. Sometimes these fathers, they play on, they also become victims. They try to become victims, and it's really being inactive. You need to be proactive in doing things for your children. You know, it's not only mothers that love their children. You also have to love your children by being proactive, knowing stuff, looking and asking, if possible, research. This is what I want to do. Who do I talk to? Who do I? And do it in a timely manner where you have no excuse later on to say, I couldn't do A or B or C. The other question I want to ask again is, what if you have registered your child? A child has been born to you, and you've registered your name on the birth certificate, and then you find out through DNA that you're not the father of the child.
This one is a very, very big issue. It's a tough case. See, but we are talking about human beings here.
Yeah.
And as I have to I'm not talking about personal views. I'm not talking about how I feel, because this could be somebody's situation. My advice is, sit down with this mother, ask what really happened, because the DNA is the proof we have. There are so many children in this world who are not the real biological parent, and the parents are not aware, or they work there and the father there.
Yeah, so many things. I know a few people, 1 or 2 or 3 people who've gone to collect the visa, and then they've said you should go and do the DNA thing, and then after and it's been happening a lot. You know,
and we heard of a footballer who happened in Ghana and all that. So the important thing here is that when this situation happens, or when you have your hunch, we are in a technological age. We are in the age of research. We are in an age of evidence. DNA is something, when we were born, it was not here. Now, 50 years plus.
I'm not my father's daughter. I'm not my father's daughter.
And remember, there's in some cultures, in some cultures they call it baby's father. Before you know, they're not even the baby's father. These women are rich. They just want somebody there, and they say baby's father. You might not be the baby father, but they are using you to collect money. But the important thing here is that if it happens that you have done a DNA, it's not your child. Sometimes, let's be honest, if it's an early age, you could make a decision for yourself. Do I want to continue? The question you have to ask yourself is that if the birth father was, because the DNA is not yours, so anybody can come and claim in future that that's the child. That's another one. Secondly, if the child has grown up and you got to know you've done investment, people can even adopt. You can swallow your pride. You can say, my name is on it, I will carry on. And you can stop the politics or so it's easier for me. It hasn't happened to me as a man to sit down here and talk about it. But what I'm saying is that you might have invested in these children. You might have done things. Maybe the relationship's over and you realize that they will know your children, or one of them will know children. What do you do? Are you going to neglect the child because of what the mother has done? Or you say, but if you have done it technically, then because you have played that role, you could still.
But
sometimes
you see, the guy you mentioned, Odatilante, it's a public notice, so I can mention his name. It's public news.
Yeah.
So the 3 children are not his.
They're not his.
And the sad thing is that this man has been the emotional father.
Yeah.
If not the biological father, he's been the emotional father throughout their lives.
Yeah.
Yet, since this separation and the issues that came up, his relationship has been severed. I don't understand how the relationship, because of what the mother has told the children.
But also, I don't know too much about that case, but it could be that what the woman was demanding from the guy was unreasonable. So, for instance, if we're asking the guy to spend some money, which he thinks that is too much,
of course,
and he's not able to do it, and now he realized that they are not my children, he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
my issue is not even about the money or anything.
It's about emotionally.
Emotional.
All this years,
the attachment. And the father that he's
and it's a wickedness, and also you will not say if it's 1 out of the whatever. Then you might, but if all the 3, he's not important. So why are you doing that to him? Because he plays the football and you enjoy yourself and you want him to be. It's not fair, and it's ridiculous.
So I mean, coming back to my question again, you've given us some instances where they can talk about it, and if he decides to go ahead in this situation, if the guy decides I'm not going to go ahead, I found out that this baby is not mine, I'm not going to go ahead with it. I just want to wash my hands and walk away. Yet his name is on the birth certificate.
You go back and do.
His name is on the birth certificate.
Yeah, you see, because remember that you can acquire DNA, you can acquire parental responsibility, as we talk about, even if it's not your child. Now, it's not your biological child. You did not see it when the child was 12, when you've been involved. It's early days. It's tough. But if the woman is not going to be honest with you now, he's not going to be not honest with you in future. So the honest fact is that you have to make a decision. This is not my advice to you. You got to sit down with the woman again to say, this is a situation, by law, I have parental responsibility. However, because of this DNA, the child is not my child. Then, unless you do something, by law, the child is your child. So if you want to rescind, if you want to undo the parental responsibility given to you by the court, you got to go again and put your case to court and say the child is not mine. Other than that, you have responsibility. You might say, and remember, you should not sit down there and be abusive. You should not sit down there and punish the child. You should not. Every decision you take should be rational. It's easier for me to sit down here and advise, but sit down, don't rush doing things, reflect, and take a bold decision. If this thing has happened to you, it does happen. Yeah.
So if it's happened to you, you need to take you listen to the advice.
Don't be emotional now.
Don't be emotional. It's painful. But take time out to think about it, and then go and seek advice.
Make sure you don't go and throw blows or that one. The police will go for you
involved.
So please.
Yeah, so if it wasn't court that gave you the thing and you did it by registration, you need to go back to the registry office and then
tell them they will advise you.
They will advise you on what to do next. So I mean, coming back down again, a few things a few orders that I think will support the whole situation of parental responsibility. We've talked about child arraignment order. We've talked about special guardianship orders, and then specific issues order. We haven't spoken about specific issue. What is a specific issue order? Should I go? A specific issue order then orders. What does it say here? By definition, says that parents pursue from the family court to resolve a matter in connection with the exercise of parental decisions about particular medical treatment, operations. So when it's a big thing, whether they should receive religious or non-religious. So, for example, if there's a Jehovah Witness, and mom is a Jehovah Witness and dad is not, or a Jehovah Witness, right? And this child has got a disease that he needs blood transfusion, and mom is saying no. you can't do it because of my religion, and dad is saying yes, it is to save his life. You can go to court and ask for a specific issue order, which will specify what should happen in relation to your child.
So they will bring all the medical experts. They will say that the likelihood of this child getting a blood transfusion, if he was to have this illness, is 80-something%. The court are likely to go with the father, who is
because it will be in the child's best interest.
They are not going to say, "Oh, mom is religious." No, that's where the court overrules.
So the court will overrule mom's decision, and then because this child is a baby, they haven't chosen to be Jehovah's Witness. You, as a mom, are choosing for the child to be Jehovah's Witness when dad is not. And probably when the child grows up, like me, I was baptized in Anglican, but when I grew up, I became a Church of Pentecost member, and I've been since. And I remember when I started when I started going to Pentecost, I was very young. Each time I woke up in the morning to go, my dad would be sitting there and say, "Me, when I die and I come back, I will never baptize a child again." Only because I'm going to Pentecost. He was so bent for me to go to Anglican that he was so upset. And every time I'm going with my scarf, you know, when you become a born again, you have your scarf and your this, and I have my Bible, and I don't let people sleep in the house. Early in the morning, I'm up, no paima, and I will be singing.
Make sure you sweep the place and stop singing.
And my dad was so angry with me, and he said to me, "If I was to have another child, I would never baptize them."
Oh no!
I will never baptize them. I baptized you in Anglican. Why are you going to that church? You know,
that church got a name.
So, but my mom was a Church of Pentecost member, and she brought me into it. So, and I was so saturated in it that this became a big thing. But you know, it wasn't really legal aspect. So, in the same way, if the parents disagree in that sense, major issues like this, you can go to court and ask for what is called a specific issue order. So, always ask for advice as parents. Do not sit there and let things go, because parents have rights, fathers have rights, and mothers have rights. In this country, the fathers have fought so much, and you know, the fathers used to climb onto the.
Oh, father's right.
Yeah, father's right.
Yeah,
and
because nobody was listening to them.
Nobody was listening to them.
And they don't have superheroes.
They will go and climb on.
Sometimes they will get this. These advocates, what do you call them? Greenspeace and all that.
Greenpeace,
Some of them they hide them, and they say, "This Father's Day, please can you climb there, put our flag there for the whole world to know that we are not being listened to."
So they will climb to the Buckingham Palace, and they will climb. They used to climb to all those, climb up all those places
and
just to be heard. So these days, fathers have rights. You need to exercise your parental rights.
Don't climb.
Do not just let it go.
If you fall, you break your back.
Because your child has the right to spend. It doesn't matter if you've got immigration issues or not. Seek advice. Do not. What we're saying here is not limited. There's so many things and it's case by case. You may have a complex case. You may have an easy case, but it's important for you to tell somebody. Do not suffer in silence, and then when they ask you, say, "Oh, she doesn't allow me to see my child." If there's no domestic abuse, let me say that again, if there's no domestic abuse, there is no reason why you cannot see your child, immigration or no immigration. There's no reason why you cannot see your child. It's important that you exercise your parental rights or acquire one, so that your child will have the opportunity to spend time with you or with both parents. Do not allow a vindictive parent, a mother or a father, to prevent your child from enjoying good family life. Thank you very much. Uncle, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah. You have to conclude by when does parental responsibility terminate? Yeah? There are people there, educated or uneducated, who are trying to do people. Men, your parental responsibility carries on. You shouldn't be like when children are in care and they say 18 and all that. Yeah? Pay your responsibilities. But by law, when the child reaches 18, then they can say, "Mommy or Daddy, I'm responsible." But that doesn't mean that when the child is in uni, you don't pay money and all that. But a woman should not use, or a dad should not use to say, "Oh, the child is here with me. If we pay maintenance, continue to pay." Have a reasonable thing. The money should go to the child, especially those who are separated.
Yeah, child maintenance. I was going to say maybe we could add that next time. But as you're saying it, child maintenance is also an issue because sometimes the women. Sorry, I'm not picking on women today because I'm also a woman. But it's just because I've worked with high number.
Yes, Uncle Sam is anti-human.
I would say Uncle Sam is this, but it's me that I'm, But I have to be fair.
Yeah.
And I've worked in the area where I've seen women use that a lot, and I've seen women say, "I'm not," even with court order. She say, "No, I'm not allowing you to see your child because you haven't brought the money." So child maintenance is also important. Some women use it. They don't even tell the children that they don't tell the children that the father is sending money. Remember, two of you had these children. Regardless of whatever you have with them, last week we said it, do not demonize one parent against the other. Because if you do, that is emotional abuse in the first place. You're emotionally abusing your child, and that's going to backfire at some point. Because when the child was growing up in the home where the two of you were together, they saw what happened. I may not have been there, but the children saw what happened. And so they will start reflecting once they start becoming matured. And then they will start reflecting on this. And then they will realize that mom told us that mom lied to us. Dad wasn't as bad.
Yeah.
Dad, I didn't see dad hit mom. That why was mom telling me before? And also some children, they know. They may be afraid at this time to say
divided
anything.
Loyalty.
But they've got divided loyalties.
They will shut up till they have the money, the courage to challenge you.
Exactly.
A teenager, he goes to school, he's not coming back.
Yeah.
He goes to school, he goes to local social service to say, "No, this is a wicked mother." Then you ask yourself, what have I done?
Yeah.
Wicked father, what have I done? Because you are using the other parent who is not living with.
Yeah. Some parents can demonize the other parents. So especially mothers will demonize the father to the point where this child sees the father. "I don't want to see him. That's your father. It's got nothing to do with whatever is happening." I've seen so many children refusing to see the fathers because of what the mother has told them. And when you do the assessment, you can hear the mimicking the mother's views.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we as women, we also are fair to the fathers. And not demonizing the fathers as evident out there. You don't want to deprive your child of enjoying both parents, as we said before. Thank you very much. Does anyone have anything else to say? It's 8:00 now, and we want to end here, and hope you can join us again next week. It's been an interesting topic. If you have any questions that you couldn't ask, please send your comments, and also you can maybe call us as well. And then we will signpost you to the right people, or we will discuss it and advise you on what to do. Believe me, we know what to do. And we will. I can proudly say that we know what to do because
if you have to do without saving you some money, we'll do that. If it's not too complicated.
Yeah, if we can save you some money, we can help you to make your applications and give you the advice and everything. And then if it's complicated, we can advise you to go to court or mediation as well. So thank you very much, and join us again next time. Next week we're talking about rape. Next week we're talking about rape. So join us. It's going to be a heavy topic,
so you may have to
discussions. So it will be rape part 1 or part 2, depending on how it goes. But join us and join the discussions. Please think about your comments, and we love having your comments and interacting and doing it together. Don't just leave us to do it. Let's all do it together, because your views are very, very important. We are out for now until next week. Thank you for joining us. And you've been listening to COP UK Radio and the segment for Community Welfare Matters. We are out. Thank you. You've been listening to COP